Then our snare team, Danny Pendergrass, is teaching at RCC right now. Sean Parra, who was at Blue Stars last year.
Yep.
And BD snare drummer. I think a lot of people know him online. He's awesome. And then Cameron Ayers.
Oh, really?
Marching blogs and
C-Sun.
Powell of C-Sun. He's composition major.
Yep, composition major.
So that's our potential snare team right now. I might as well just run the list doan for you guys.
Let's hear it.
Do it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to talk about, like, because they're all unique.
Just don't forget anybody or mispronounce anybody's name.
Well, that's the best part about this
if
job.
you need us to like take some names off,
dude, I've been nerding out about it. It's like weirdly putting together like this like all-star roster. It's been a fun process. Like calling up your friends and being like, hey, you want to do this?
Right.
And then it's exciting. It's like, oh man, well, this person's really good at this, and this person wants to do this. It's like that has been one of the most fun parts that I didn't realize I wanted to do.
Yeah.
The bass team, we have Genevieve Hilburn, Mitchell Kirikawa.
Oh wow.
We're teaching at Pulse right now.
Yeah.
Coates alum.
Blue Stars alum
Blue
too.
Stars alum.
And then Gilbert Zario. And then quad staff, we have Charlie Davis, Blue Q,
Blue Q
alum. And then we have Luis Garcia, who's teaching at PAL right now, and he just aged out Pulse and taught Vanguard cadets last year. And then Austin Collins.
Good old
We were talking to Austin
Pacific
earlier.
Northwest,
Yeah, and just got off teaching Viz at Vanguard. March Cavies and Pulse. So
that's a stacked battery staff right there.
Yeah.
It's a really fun group of people. So the conversations we've already had have been beneficial for me.
Right.
Like I hadn't met Danny before, and he was one of the first people I called because Tony and he was one of his students at RCC. He was like this section leader, and I was like, kind of nervous. Has a different background than I do.
He taught Crossman last year.
And what's funny is I was like, man, Crossman's snare line is really good.
Yeah.
Like I thought that during the year.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to him, and he was like, yeah, I taught Crossman last year. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, dude, I love what you did. And what that whole team did. Crossman, underrated for sure. By the way, Blue Stars was amazing last year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that actually the staff adjustment has nothing to do with the performance of the group.
It's just more like personal considerations.
Just people
with the people on staff.
Yeah, exactly. And just Rick was just ready to do a different role, do something else. It had nothing to do with
just life.
Yeah,
actually,
just life.
There really wasn't anything. It's not dramatic or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it can be.
We can get that popcorn other places.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was nothing like that. Where it was just kind of like, well, trying to ready for something new.
Yep.
But I talked to Danny for a long period of time. And we just went through. We kind of just it was kind of like this long form conversation.
Yep.
And then that's when I realized, high level drumming is more similar than we all think it is.
Oh yeah.
The stylistic changes that all these groups make in the approach, are very obvious, but they are kind of the last 10%. And then that was when we started talking about what is that 10% going to be? Because we already realized as a staff, it was like, okay, the 90% is going to be fine. It was like they're all on the same page where it's like we want to set up a different system. I'm already excited talking about it right now. I'm like, we want to come out and be ready to go. It's not, it's growing pains. It's new staff. The core is in a really strong place. They just had their best placement ever, I think, best score or whatever. And all the other captions are firing in all cylinders. And so it isn't necessarily let's set things up. That's what the preseason's for.
Yeah.
We want to go out to spring training and for it to be operational at the highest level. And then already have an idea of what that's going to be before we step foot to spring training.
And that idea, what can we expect? Can we expect an aggressive drum line? Are we looking at more of a musical drum line? I mean,
so it's going to be interesting because we have our ideas, our inspirations, and who knows what we'll see. That's the exciting part about it. Is the people auditioning for this group. I hope they're open-minded because You know, it was so funny because we were also talking about this, like, hey, what's our identity? And then somebody brought up a really good point. I forget who it was, but the identity will be built through what it actually is. We can spend all day talking about it, but we won't know until we have our members and we start teaching them the music and the style of the show. But we do have inspirations.
It's exciting to create that, by the way.
Yes.
You know, like in a world where there are so many groups with so many strong identities, that kids just want to go and join, right? But creating that when it didn't exist before is special. You know, you only get to do that a couple of times, and sometimes that doesn't even happen in any given year. But to do that as a staff and to do that as a membership is, it's a little more rare and has a different level of like we did something, you know, like we started something here. Let me ask you a question, because you've seen this, I'm sure, teaching and stuff. There are groups that have really strong identities, like, you know what a Rennick drumline is going to look and sound like. You know what John and Ian ensemble is going to look and sound like. You know what Coates is going to look and sound like. When Mike Jackson goes to Crown this summer, you have a sense. Maybe I'm sure that there will be some surprises and things like that, but you have a little bit of a sense of like, okay, I kind of can envision that. For you guys, it's to be determined. How do you create it? How do you actually do that? Because not everybody does. Because a lot of times you'll see groups and you're like, and it's not through anybody's fault, but you go, I don't really get a strong sense of identity from this group. I see notes being played. They're trying to achieve it really well. The notes make sense with the show and with the overall, you know, composition and everything like that. But identity is this other thing, you know? So when you know, and I'm sure this is, at this point, it's like exciting, right? It's more exciting to think about how do you go about creating that, you know? And you have this great staff, but they all come from different places, you know? How does everybody get on that same page of being like, you know, we don't know exactly what it's going to be, but we have the sense of this is how we're going to go about it.
Yeah. So challenging.
Yeah.
It's what I've been thinking about nonstop practically. And which is, yeah, of course.
Because in a lot of ways, it's an extension of you.
Right.
Like it's weird how lines can take on the personality of that person that's leading them. It was like a little bit of the conversation we had last time with Josh, you know, and Josh's answer was, I'm just there all the time. The kids know that they can rely on me. I'm going to be the one opening up the doors and lock, you know, and when you know, for him, he was like, when the kids see that in me, they become completely open and invested in what we're going to do. And his lines have a strong sense of like, you know what that's going to look and sound like. So for you,
shout out to what they did at Colts too. That was inspirational.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's your game plan? How are you going to do it?
So the staff is having a lot of conversations now because we have to disseminate that correct information from the get-go, like how to hold the stick. And that's all going to be related to how, you know, what the identity is. And I'll tell you guys some inspiration. I don't want to like keep it a secret. You know what I mean? Like we have our, but we have to be really vigilant about discussing each facet of what we're going to do. And then we have to commit to making sure that everyone that it is a uniform approach. So it's that making it very clear what the answer is. Like, how are we going to approach this skill set? And we all have one uniform answer. Because I think, for example, we have Blue Coats and Blue Devils. It's like, okay, which one are we going to choose? And so far, what we've all determined, and I think this is definitely this kind of decade style, which is we're going shopping and we're going to combine things and be kind of a chameleon for what the material is asking for.
Yeah.
So we're going to overtrain our students to be able to be completely musical, but also have those moments of virtuosity, and be able to draw from both of those sides.
So be very adaptive to different things. Yeah.
So there is a West Coast influence. I'm extremely influenced by the Gussick stuff. That's what I grew up on, and I've personally been inspired compositionally. You know, you can see it in kind of the exercise packet by the Mike Jackson stuff. And I just love the idea of bringing
what aspect. Because that's you know, some people, because I will say in varying degrees of success, he's been incredibly influential, but sometimes you can't control how people take your influence.
Right.
So what exactly about his stuff is your takeaway from?
I think it just cutting to the. It almost it's like performance art of something natural.
Interesting.
Like a natural force of nature. Like I feel like he, you know, I even remember this like Jackson percussion post on Facebook from a long time ago. He's like brought he had a picture of his pad like in front of a waterfall, and he was just like getting like inspiration from the waterfall. Yeah. I don't, you know, it's like it might have been, you know, I don't know how serious of it that was, but that's what I feel like when he has his repetitive nature that goes in and out, like using some sort of motivic design that breathes. It's almost, you know, that's like breathing is very like innate and continuous, and cyclical, and that idea of bringing, you know, and utilizing natural force and like connecting ourselves to those, you know, how physics works, like, and this is a very inarticulate way of saying it, but that I'm drawn to that. You know, I think that drumming is a great way to try to connect to the earth.
You know what's interesting as you're talking about all this stuff? You know who else I get a lot of that from? Tony.
Yeah.
Like seriously,
Yeah,
like if nobody had described his stuff and you just showed me his stuff, which a lot of times, like the first time I'll see Arcadia's stuff, just my sort of visceral reaction is very much that. Is like this, for him, I feel like it's, this is just me saying, just me, you know, my reaction, but very much of the natural world. And then very much how the natural world collides with something very sort of modern. Right. There's always that element of like, you know, something that feels like of the earth, but then, you know, some really moody jazzy thing gets added to that. And I actually think that Mike and Tony, as far as like, there's some harmony there, you know? So it's really interesting that you describe Mike that way, you know?
Yeah. And I do think that drumming isn't completely, drumming is super weird. Yeah. It's like these micro impacts. I talk to my students about this a lot. Like naturally, you know, our initial reaction to any sort of, you know, collision is for contraction of our muscles. And so to somehow retrain our brain to say like, it's okay that we're having these microaggressions, right? And to not do what's natural is almost like this weird acceptance thing of the body and movement and gravity and that's really interesting to me. And
funny enough, like in a lot of ways, our bodies are built to do that. And like if you look at sports, right? A lot of what they do, like hitting a baseball, hitting a golf ball, you know, and the way to do those things effectively is to not do what you know, like you said, like what the natural sort of response is, which is to contract, tighten up. It's actually they use words like release, you know, is to do the exact opposite thing. So that's super, super interesting.
It's like a quest for efficiency.
Right.
So to kind of sum up what the stars thing has been so far conversationally, is that we're definitely drawing a lot of inspiration from our groups that we've taught at and performed with, because we liked those groups. We don't want to do exactly what they did.
Yeah.
But we were like, things that we were throwing around I was like, I love that Blue Devils, when they play like a feature moment, it seems effortless. And the way that they approach the drum, they actually can lighten up the touch to play all that fast material. But it's super clean and it's cool. You know, like it's just cool.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, like we don't have to get super analytical. Definitely do often, but sometimes I just have to like sit back and be like. And then on the other side, just the concert percussion nature of like a Rennick line, being able to play like a musical phrase to the highest level interests us too.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then the timbral exploration that Tony does often, or like, you know, with a battery, like maybe not using them in the way that you would normally see them
in an orthodox way. Yeah.
Creating different sounds.
Yes.
Yeah. Or just
feelings.
like in an impact, maybe the opposite is going to happen. Maybe the battery's going to be quiet.
Right.
You know, and then grow through that impact.
Playing with expectation.
Yeah. So, and he kind of told that to me too when we were sitting down. I was like, so what kind of you gonna write paradiddles? Or you know, it's like, it was so funny because he was like, I kind of do what makes sense visually, like where you are in the field, you know, and what is being asked for the group. And that is going to be really important for us too, is what does Blue Stars want us to do? Because we definitely don't want to be independent of them. Like we're going to have our thing, but
you can't just come in and be like, we're going to be an island.
Which is why I love drum corps so much. Is like, we are part of this team and it's like bigger than the percussion section. And we've made that very clear. Like we are ready to be team players with the group, and then we can find our moments within that.
Yep.
So that's kind of the like, there's definitely a West Coast, I guess, if you want to use the geography, that's really easy. People can have a lot of imagination of that, what that means immediately. Gussick influence, Jackson influence.
West Coast inspiration.
Yeah. But then, you know, we nuts and bolts, like I think there's a lot of us Pulse people, and they get consistent results. So a lot of the ways that they rehearse we're going to work for us. You know, and then a sense of groove. I think that also, like, their sense of groove is just like this repetition until it feels like that's, you know, that's where it's like the circadian rhythm, you know,
right.
where like, you repeat something enough, like people will naturally find that, you know, pleasing. It's just like a heartbeat, you know, where the repetition, you know, like, and that's a big thing for Roger at Coates. And so it's like, oh, well, we're going to, I think finding a groove within our music is important too. So it's kind of a lot, we're drawing a lot of things, and then we're going to make rational, logical decisions based on what the design is, and then that will become what it is. So we can't really tell people, but we can select the right players and teach the right players. I think our auditions aren't going to be the first audition and the video auditions, which we've decided to change the structure for video auditions. It's still this flat rate on the website, but we're going to allow anybody to play whatever they want.
Interesting.
And just we'll be able to know what level they are at based on what they want to play. And we'll give them some guidelines. You know, we're still talking about what that is. But and then we were going to give them feedback and tell them exactly what we need them to do at the callback camp to make it. So we're like, okay, this person has a set level of skill. Now let's help them learn what they missed at the satellite camps.
Right.
So that they're ready for the callback camp. And then the callback camp isn't so much of teaching everybody the approach. Everybody knows what it is. And then we choose the best people from that. So they've all prepared the approach.
Got it.
So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
What's the, I don't even know what time of year it is. What's the window of, like, are you already accepting video auditions?
Yes.
Is there like, okay.
Yeah, but we also do need to, I think they can email them at the moment.
Okay. Is there a
Blue Stars
cutoff?
Better. There is a cutoff at the moment. It's the last camp, December 11th, I believe.
Okay.
Of the last satellite camp.
When is the first in-person audition?
The first in-person audition is
The callback,
November 20th.
Okay.
So we do have satellite camps first.
Okay.
It's Houston and Indy at the same time. And then
Nothing in SoCal?
December 11th, so it's a Sunday.
Okay.
It's going to be at Arcadia High School.
Oh, okay.
And most of the staff is going to be at that one.
Bunch of independent groups are already loving the fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, we're just trying to set it up for everybody to make it really easy.
Yeah.
Because also, we know that everybody has a lot of decisions to make. And we haven't necessarily I don't know, Blue Star is a very attractive group to go to. Finalist, amazing. They don't know what they're going to get yet.
Right.
So we understand if they want to audition at a group that is more set up already. But we want them to have this option as well.
Well, so here's a good question. Who should show up? Because they can listen to this podcast, obviously, and learn all about you. They know the staff from the names, right, and reputation. Who should show up? What kind of, and how should they approach coming and auditioning for you guys?
So once the staff list is officially announced, we are going to release we're going to do the social media thing.
Yeah. Yep.
I felt so, it's funny, I'm 30, I'm young, but I felt it's so funny. I was talking to a lot of them who are pretty prominent on social media. Hey, I was even talking to Zach Wilson. It's we need to do social media because that's where all the young drummers are.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to release here's our general approach so they can learn from that. I think, advanced drummer. I mean, it is pretty high level. We're probably, most likely, we will be taking people with some sort of experience, whether that's independent WGI or DCI. They've done a season of something. It's going to be, and who knows, maybe there's somebody that hasn't done any of that.
I bet you're going to find a diamond in the rough that's out there.
Right.
Because there's always one or two that
But we're also worried about them if they haven't done a full 80 days or something like that. And maybe not drum corps, but a full indoor season or whatnot. But I honestly, so everybody should come though, because it's going to be educational in the sense that we're not just going to be oh, you're not good enough. We will tell you how to get to be in the group. For instance, Ty, when he came to the Blue Coats audition in 19, and in his individual audition, just kind of told him everything that he needed to do to make Blue Coats. And then he followed up with me a bunch, did some Zoom lessons and stuff like that until he made Blue Coats. But if he hadn't gone to that camp that he got cut at, he wouldn't have made Blue Coats. So everybody should show up.
Yeah, I think so.
That's what I should be saying at the beginning.
But I mean,
but who's going to make it? We are going for the upper echelon drummers. So anybody very that knows that they can drum at the highest level or wants to do that, that's who should come.
The reason why I asked the question was to sort of dispel any assumptions that sometimes kids have about should I show up to that? Who are they gonna take? And sometimes also sometimes students go into auditions and their assumptions about what they need to do in order to make the group aren't necessarily in line with what the staff is actually looking for.
They end up self-cutting themselves.
Yeah, they end up self-cutting, or they end up just focusing on
playing the audition, for instance, something like that, right?
Right.
It's a whole bunch of stick tricks.
Whereas maybe I have a friend. One of my really good friends is really good friends with Colin McNutt, and he told me, and this is hearsay, so I'll just say that. But he told me one of the things that's really valuable to Colin is that kids come willing to do what they're asked to do.
Interesting.
Because obviously Colin's lines play a really they play a certain way, and you don't really get that other places. So if you're going to show up there and they ask you to make adjustments and stuff like that, that you give full commitment to that. And so that's really important to him, and maybe you wouldn't know that going into it. So kids being open-minded when they come to you, willing to learn, willing to try things, stuff like that. I just want to make sure that kids don't have assumptions because they look at the staff list and they
Right.
They look at maybe what Blue Stars has done before or anything like that.
Well, we have a lot of satellite camps. We have one in Arizona, Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2, Houston and Austin in Texas. And we have one in Indy and one in SoCal. So we're not looking for just SoCal. And we're looking for the best drummers that are the most open-minded to mold into something new. So we do have a lot of interest in SoCal. So we're going to get a lot of talent.
Yeah.
But I think that, for me personally, like if people have been watching this podcast, it's like, shouldn't just assume anything. Just do your best and be willing to be malleable, in the process. And don't make assumptions that we're going to drum a certain way until you go, because it's like, oh wow, they use wrist turn. It's like, it's so funny, like when people like, make certain assumptions are like, oh yeah, that group, they only do this. It's like,
right, exactly.
It's just percentages. Like we aren't going to be like, don't do this. It's like, no, we're gonna do a percentage of this and this and this, right? Because it's more nuanced than that. It's not black and white. So also the exercise packet, I outline at the beginning, and it's so funny because everybody skips the words. I actually made it was a really bad idea, but I made a meme page just because it was funny. I was like, I was joking that like students these days would skip the write up at the beginning of the
and they just go right to the exercise.
Go to the exercises. Yeah. It's like, if I make it memes, they'll read it.
That's what the young kids want.
Yeah, and then but it was like a whole page of memes, and I got feedback from the staff. They're like, that's pretty cringy. I still left one meme in there.
You're gonna have to send me some of these.
They're pretty good memes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm biased.
Have you seen the memes this guy
I
makes?
love
memes. Your memes are great.
I make memes, but a lot of times I don't post my own. I give them to somebody else to post because I don't want to. They could be kind of cringe.
Yeah.
I love the high school students I have. I love using their terminology and their memes, and they roll their eyes. It's fun being in that where we can have access to like their humor.
Yeah.
And then I'm just totally I don't get it, so I just use it, and they hate that. It's great.
Yeah, I don't even try because we're old. We're like beyond the old school that you talked about earlier. So,
so let me just say, and this is not lip service. This is not just because you were gracious enough to come on the podcast and talk about it. I'm excited.
Cool.
Seriously, like just like hearing all of it, hearing your story, and sort of seeing how that all has led to this, and how this is not necessarily a destination. It's just another step, in the natural progression for you. But it's exciting, this opportunity. So I think that a lot of kids should show up if they want to be a part of not just joining something, but creating something,
Yeah, I'm super. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
There are so many good drummers now. There's so many resources and the frenzy, the passion online. You could just see it. We were talking about we should just recruit through social media. Just look at 100 days of practice. Like somebody is just grinding it out every day, and they're posting their results online. And I know there's a lot of people out there that don't post online at all because they're so critical of their own stuff that are great. And it's just for fun, that social media stuff. But there are so many good drummers. So we're pretty confident we're going to get a great line. Mm-hmm. So it's more of just making sure that they're cool with getting feedback for the whole season. But we need people to come out. This is an experiment. There's a lot of great places to go. And I think, there's a lot of really enticing other places that have new stuff going on too.
Right.
And actually our main thing is don't cut off your options. Consider us and them.
Yeah.
Because we want you to march, And so we're trying to be really open-minded about that and not necessarily be like, you need the loyalty from the beginning to us, because we will build that through in a process. You don't need to build that, have that loyalty right away. You don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's okay to earn it.
Yeah.
And see what excites me? It's like some fresh ideas from. We're going to see some fresh ideas from you guys.
Well, the staff is so good. Dude, even if I blow it.
Yeah.
It's still going to be great.
But you're not
It's still-
because
it's
you're
gonna
not
be on the
because
train.
I tell you what, I've worked with you on a staff and I've seen you firsthand and the way you can connect with your students. Dude, you're multifaceted. You're not just like a drummer. You're a percussionist. I mean, you got all the tools to be successful.
Thanks, man.
And I'm really looking forward to it.
And what I can see is weirdly, in hearing you talk about your story, I can already sort of imagine, and then in hearing you talk about the line, you aren't necessarily talking about the line as a natural extension of you as a person, but I can already kind of feel like it's like we can't help ourselves, you know. But I'm excited for that because the world, you know, at least on this stage, hasn't really seen that. They haven't seen what a Greg Power group is, you know.
Well, so that's why I wrote all original exercises. Is that the most of them come from my COVID Zoom time of what was the most efficient and what got people to a better level faster. And it was all about tricking them into playing the right skill sets just through playing those exercises. And people find them really hard. The tempos are too fast. So those are, you know, I put on the interest page too. Bring it down a lot.
Yeah.
And do the whole range. But at the fast, you know, exercises at that speed will develop muscle correctly, as long as you're moving in the right way. So I do have a write-up in the packet too about how to approach each exercise. And then we're going to have some social media videos about approach on that beforehand. So hopefully people get a little more info and it's not just going in blind, but they can also email.
See, I like
And
that.
also reach
I
out.
like that social media idea. That's a great tool.
I think that along with this podcast, you're going to get like, you know, 5 people.
Yes.
5 people taken care of.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's awesome. I appreciate you guys letting me talk about all that stuff too. And so the exercises were to teach the approach too.
Right.
Like the first exercise Gyarados in there is immediately like, okay, Tony likes natural decay, you know, accent tap, twitch, where we were very relaxed and efficient with the motion, allowing for a lot of rebound, and then building that resonant sound through not overbearing contact, you know, on the stick. So it's like immediately like, hey, this is how we play in the first exercise, and then we can kind of relate everything to that after that.
So a really important message to any you know, people perspective coming out, read the words. Because how to play, and even if it's just from the point of view of if you want to get out of the exercise what you're intending for your own benefit, read the words, you know, and approach it that way versus, you know, just like analyzing the notes on the page through your personal lens. So that's, you know,
I think that's important for any place you audition.
Yep.
And then also, if they don't have a lot of the words on there, especially if you're going to a place that has vets, talk to them about the approach and how the members interpret the information. You have that available to you. You can reach out to them online, and most of them are pretty, you know. And then, you know, it may take a while for them to get back to you, or they don't, you know, because they get distracted, and that's fine. Don't feel like you're bothering them if they don't respond. Like, it just happens. So I've missed messages in the past where I like read them, and then on social media, like a DM, and then forgot to respond.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't discourage people from reaching out to those who might have information for them. But yeah, so read the words, and then, you know, you can, but also, you know, just like use those online materials to your advantage. I think a lot of people are now, but if you haven't been, you know, that's a great way to do it. And then, and especially like once we have the staff list out, it'll be great because I think it's like, oh, you want to learn a little bit more about snare? You can hit up one of the snare guys. You know, we have an email, and so anybody listening to the podcast, it's Blue Stars. Oh, sorry, I'll give you guys it afterwards. I actually don't remember what it is.
Robert can put it on the edit. He can put a
That'd be
little thing on the
awesome.
screen.
So if they have any questions
Like
about
this email that I'm going to point
perfect,
to.
because that'll be great. Because then I can like send it to, you know, like I've had questions that were for the admin, and I just send it to the admin. You know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Any other things we need to hit?
No,
Robert?
I mean, I just want
I
to
hope
say,
you guys come watch or come record them.
Absolutely.
Oh,
and
for sure.
from the get go, if you're interested in coming out earlier, like, obviously I don't have to talk about it now, but we are prepared to present our stuff early.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like that's important to us.
Hey, I tell every guest that comes on here, hey, just save us a spot up front and we're there.
Yeah, but but also, recently we've been loving going to be able to check out rehearsals and seeing how, seeing how it's made, like seeing all the stuff that creates, the show that you see in the live.
Get a look in
and
the
all that
kitchen,
stuff.
how
Yeah.
everything's being
We've got some unorthodox ideas for
That's
rehearsal.
great.
I'm excited to try those out. And they're related to feedback from the members. Like I would ask like the Blue Coats guys last summer, like, hey, what do you feel like you needed more of?
Right.
So just off the cuff, I mean, something we want to try is a guided individual practice time where before we start our subsectionals, everybody spreads out for a second. The staff tells each person like, hey, can you work on this? So that, if somebody's ticking on something, everybody else in the line isn't waiting on that person to figure it out.
Sure.
It's like, boom. And then they can kind of go help each individual, but everybody gets a little bit of time to peck something out. But, that's something that we've gotten some feedback on. It's like, okay, we're definitely going to do that.
That's cool.
So things like that. I mean, I don't want to talk about all of them, but because, who knows if we're going to do it. But
And it's right now, a lot of it is in theory. You're going to try it.
It might not work.
And or
we don't have time for it,
Or you may discover something new.
Right.
Like a tweaked version of it that works. And that's what this is all about.
Well, so the important thing was, too, we were talking about this a while ago, but I think this is what I've been getting the most feedback on. And it's like, we have to say no to a lot of stuff. We have to be able to define things by saying what it isn't a lot. Because so far, it's like, this all sounds great, what I'm saying. It's like, oh, we're going to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And that's the fastest way to not have anything, right? Just a jack of all trades, master of none.
Master of none,
Right.
So we definitely don't want to fall prey to that. So I think having that experience background of being like, okay, this is the level we need to be at, because everybody's kind of done it, so everybody will have that kind of standard, and we want to teach the members to have that standard immediately, regardless of what we end up doing. So anyway, I could go on and on about it, but that's
It's
I'm
exciting.
glad that you guys are
It's
excited
exciting.
about it.
Yeah.
The sun's getting ready to come up. So.
No, yeah, that was awesome. It was awesome talking about that stuff.
Dude, I can't wait to see the line that you're going to put out there,
Yeah, I can't wait for auditions. Like, it's just going to be all, so looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Congratulations again. And thanks
Appreciate
for coming on and talking about that.
It was super fun.
Everything,
First podcast was way better than I thought. Like I was telling you earlier, I forgot I was on a podcast. So,
Yeah, 'cause we're just sitting here talking.
Yeah,
All right, everybody. Well, I think that's going to do it for us tonight. And we will catch you next time on the next episode, hopefully pretty quick. So we'll see. But good night.